Yes, okay. So, good afternoon to all. So, today we'll go for the second session for the subject fluid mechanics for the GATE examination. So, in last lecture, in session 1, we have started with what? The properties of the fluid. So, in properties of the fluid, we have seen the different properties of the fluid: mass density, weight density, specific gravity, specific volume, as well as we have completed viscosity of the fluid. Correct. So these all these properties already we have completed in the last lecture. So today, yes. So today we'll go for the next part of this unit. So before going to that portion, so some portion of the viscosity we need to discuss. So that I'm going to discuss here. So that is what viscosity, correct? So it is represented by mu. So we know that according to the Newton's law of viscosity, shear stress is directly proportional to rate of shear strain, correct? And this tau is equals to mu du by dy. So mu is the proportionality constant, or we can say that this is dynamic viscosity. Correct. So this is what the Newton's law of viscosity. Correct. So shear stress is directly proportional to du by dy. So this we have completed. So one more thing. So what is the effect of temperature on viscosity? So that we have to discuss here. So effect of temperature on viscosity. Effect of temperature on fluid viscosity. So that will be better. Correct. So the first thing in terms of what? Liquid. Liquid. So in case of liquid, remember that as temperature increases, as temperature increases, yes. So what about the viscosity?
Decreases.
Yes. So viscosity decreases. Correct. So in case of liquid, as temperature increases, viscosity decreases. So what is the reason behind this? Why it happens? Why viscosity decreases? So as temperature increases, viscosity decreases. So what happen exactly? What is the reason behind this? Yes, anyone? Okay. So in case of liquid, remember that viscosity is due to the cohesive forces. Viscosity is nothing but what? Resistance for the flow. And in case of liquid, the resistance for the flow is due to the cohesive forces. Correct? So here I am going to write down. So viscosity is nothing but what? Resistance for the flow. Correct. And in case of liquid, in case of liquid, viscosity is due to what? The cohesive forces. Correct. So in case of liquid, viscosity is due to cohesive forces. So whatever the resistance is there for the flow, so that is due to what? Cohesive forces. That is the molecular attraction between the fluid molecules or the liquid molecules. So due to that only viscosity exists in case of the liquid. Correct. But as we increase the temperature, so when we increase the temperature, so what happen? What about the cohesive forces? So obviously cohesive forces decreases, and obviously what happen? as cohesive forces decreases, the viscosity also decreases. Correct. So the cohesive forces is the reason behind the decrement of viscosity as we increase the temperature. So that is about the liquid. Correct. Next thing is what? What about the gases? Yes. So in case of gases, as temperature increases, viscosity also
Increases.
Viscosity increases.
increases. Correct. But why? Why viscosity exists in case of gases?
Molecular momentum.
Molecular momentum, collision of the molecules. So in case of gases, the molecules are moving randomly and they collide with each other. And that collision creates resistance for the flow. So already we have seen that viscosity is nothing but what? Resistance for the flow. Resistance for the flow of one layer over another layer. Correct. So that resistance, that viscosity exists in case of gases is due to what? The molecular momentum, the collision between the molecules. Correct. So here I'm going to write down the viscosity is due to what? Viscosity is due to molecular momentum. So as the temperature increases in case of gases, so what happened? What about the molecular momentum or the collision of the molecule?
Increases.
Molecular momentum also increases.
Increases.
Because as we provide heat energy, so that means what? To increase the temperature. So what happened? So that heat energy get converted into kinetic energy of the molecules. Correct? So when kinetic energy increases, so obviously the molecular momentum also increases. So as the temperature increases in case of gases, molecular momentum also increases, and as molecular momentum or the collision increases, the viscosity also increases. Correct. So that is the effect of temperature on fluid viscosity. So in case of liquid, as temperature increases, viscosity decreases due to cohesive forces. Because once we increase the temperature, cohesive forces decreases, or there is weakening of the cohesive forces. And as the cohesive forces weaken or decrease, as there is decrement of cohesive forces, obviously the viscosity also decreases. But in case of gases, as we increase the temperature, viscosity also increases. Why? Because viscosity exists in case of gases is due to the molecular momentum or the collision of the molecules. So as we increase the temperature, the molecular momentum increases, as well as obviously subsequently what happened? The dynamic viscosity also increases. So that is the effect of temperature on fluid viscosity. Correct? Yes. So now we will move towards, yes. So we have seen that according to the Newton's law of viscosity, so that is what? Shear stress is directly proportional to du by dy. So that is nothing but what? Shear stress is directly proportional to rate of shear strain. Correct? If the fluid follows this Newton's law of viscosity, so that kind of fluid is known as Newtonian fluid. Correct? Yes. And if it does not follow this law, or if it does not follow the Newton's law of viscosity, if tau is not directly proportional to du by dy, so in that case, if it is not like this one, so that is known as what? Non-Newtonian fluid. Correct? So the fluid which follows Newton's law of viscosity known as Newtonian fluid, and the fluid which does not follow the Newton's law of viscosity is known as non-Newtonian fluid. And one more thing, remember that in case of non-Newtonian fluid, that is the branch in which non-Newtonian fluids are studied is known as rheology. The branch in which non-Newtonian fluids are studied, known as rheology. Let's remember this one. Correct. So the branch in which non-Newtonian fluids are going to study, so that branch is known as what? The rheology. So in this lecture, we are going to see about some non-Newtonian fluids. So what is exactly that fluid and the example of those non-Newtonian fluid, so that we have to study here. Correct. Yes. So we'll go for the non-Newtonian fluid now. Non-Newtonian fluid. Yes. So in case of non-Newtonian fluid, or to define the non-Newtonian fluid, so we have to use the power law. Correct. So I will write down here the power law, and after that I will explain you about the power law. Correct. So shear stress tau equals to m into du by dy raised to n. Remember that this m is flow consistency index. Flow consistency index, and this n is flow behavior index.
सर उलट आहे ना, एम ला बिहेवियर इंडेक्स आहे ना.
Yes.
एम म्हणजे बिहेवियर इंडेक्स आहे ना, आणि एन म्हणजे फ्लो कन्सिस्टन्सी इंडेक्स.
Okay, okay, okay. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Yes. So flow behavior index, and n is flow consistency index. Correct. So this is what the power law, and by using that, or by using this power law, we have to define the non-Newtonian fluids. Correct? Yes. So I will draw one diagram here so that you will understand the different non-Newtonian fluids. So this is what the y-axis, and this is what the x-axis. Correct. So this x-axis represent the rate of shear strain. So that is what du by dy, and this y-axis represents what? The shear stress tau. Correct? Yes. And if we observe this x-axis or this horizontal line, correct, you can see that on this line the rate of shear strain increases, but there is no increment in the shear stress or the shear force. And as we know that in last lecture we have already seen in last session, that is what the difference between the fluid and the solid is what? In case of fluid, for a very small shear force, for the application, when we apply very small shear force on the fluid, so it will deform continuously. So there is continuous deformation of the fluid under the application of a very small shear force. Correct? But in case of solid, there is no deformation, or there is a very small deformation. There is no continuous deformation under the application of force, or we have to apply sufficient amount of force to get the deflection or to get the deformation. So that is the difference. Correct. So in case of fluid, very small force creates what? A continuous deformation of the fluid. But in case of the solid, require sufficient amount of force for the deflection or the deformation. So that is the difference. So for very small application of the shear force, so this is what the shear stress. Shear stress is what? Shear force divided by shear area. Correct? So this line indicates what? The shear stress or shear force. Correct? Or the shear force increases, the shear stress also increases, because shear stress equals to shear force upon area. Correct? So for the small shear stress or the shear force, there is a large deformation or there is continuous deformation. So this one shows that line, and that is nothing but what? This shows ideal fluid. And we know that for the ideal fluid, viscosity is zero. There is no resistance for the flow. So as there is no resistance for the flow, so what happens when we apply a small amount of shear force, it will deform continuously. So this x-axis or this line shows what? The ideal fluid. Correct. And when we see, when we observe this vertical line, correct. So in case of vertical line, the force or the shear stress or the shear force is increasing, but there is no deformation. Actually, du by dy is nothing but what? The rate of shear strain. So rate of shear strain is directly proportional to what? Deformation. Because what is strain? Strain is what? Change in dimension divided by original dimension. So it shows the deformation. But as we go on this line, on the vertical line, or on, if we observe this y-axis, so the force increases. We are applying more and more force, but there is no deformation. Deformation is zero. Correct. And as we have already seen in mechanics, that is a rigid body. Correct. In solid mechanics, there is one concept that is rigid body. So rigid body means what? There is no deformation under the application of force. If body does not get deformed under the application of force, so that kind of body is known as what? Rigid body. So that is nothing but what? Ideal solid. Rigid body is the ideal concept for the solid. So therefore, I can say that this is what? Ideal solid. Remember that. So this x-axis shows what? Ideal fluid, and this y-axis shows what? Ideal solid. Correct? Yes. If you have any doubt, you can ask me, please. Is it clear? So about the ideal solid and ideal fluid, is it clear to all?
Oh, sir.
Yes. Okay. So next thing is what? So Newtonian fluid. So Newtonian fluid is what? The shear stress is directly proportional to what? The rate of shear strain, or it varies linearly with the rate of shear strain. Correct. So I will show you the Newtonian fluid. So this is the Newtonian fluid. This line shows on this graph, but there is linear variation of shear stress with respect to the shear strain. So this is what? The Newtonian fluid. Correct. Yes. So next is what? So in this power law, if n is greater than 1, if here n is greater than 1, so shear stress is not linearly varying with the rate of shear strain, and that kind of fluid is nothing but what? Dilatant fluid. This is non-Newtonian fluid. Remember that. So this is dilatant fluid. Correct. And when we want to represent this dilatant fluid on this diagram, so this is like this one. Correct. So this is what? The dilatant fluid. So here I am going to write down the dilatant fluid. Correct. Here n is greater than 1. Yes. And again, yes. So when n is less than 1, so that is nothing but what? Pseudoplastic fluid. So that fluid is nothing but what? pseudoplastic fluid, and it is represented as so this is nothing but what pseudoplastic here. N is less than 1 and it is what pseudoplastic fluid. Correct. So this dilatant fluid is also known as what, or it is shear thickening fluid. So this is what shear thickening, and this one is known as what, shear thinning fluid. So first we will try to understand the difference between the dilatant fluid and the pseudoplastic fluid. Correct. So dilatant fluid, so that is also known as what, the shear thickening. So that shear thickening is there in case of dilatant fluid, and shear thinning is there in case of what, the pseudoplastic fluid. So remember that in case of Newtonian fluid, if you observe this Newtonian fluid, so here shear stress is varying linearly with respect to what, the rate of the shear strain. So remember that in case of Newtonian fluid, there is no change in viscosity with respect to the shear force. So water is the example of Newtonian fluid. So as we increase the force on the water, there is no change in viscosity. Remember that. In case of Newtonian fluid, there is no change in viscosity with respect to the force. So that I'm going to write down here so you will understand. So there is no change in viscosity with respect to force. So that is the Newtonian fluid. Correct. In case of non-Newtonian fluid, in a shear thickening or in dilatant fluid, remember that as force increases, as force increases, viscosity also increases. And in case of pseudoplastic fluid, as force increases, viscosity decreases. Correct. So that is the difference between the Newtonian fluid and non-Newtonian fluid. So the important difference is what, in case of Newtonian fluid, there is no change in viscosity with respect to the force. But in case of non-Newtonian fluid, as there is a change in force, there is always a change in viscosity. So again, it is divided into parts, that is shear thinning and shear thickening. So in case of shear thickening, that is dilatant fluid, as the force increases, viscosity also increases. But in case of the shear thinning or the pseudoplastic fluid, as force increases, viscosity decreases. Correct. So actually what I want to here, I want to show you some videos to understand what is shear thickening and what is the shear thinning. But before that, the example of this dilatant fluid is, just I will give you the example so it will be better for you to understand. That is a suspension of, or a water suspension of corn starch. Here I am going to write down water suspension of corn starch, not corn flour. Getting my point? So it is corn starch. Another example is butter. Correct? And in case of pseudoplastic, the example of the pseudoplastic is milk and blood. Correct. So I will show you one a video to understand the shear thickening and the shear thinning. Okay. Just yes. Is this video is visible to all? Yes.
It behaves very differently. When the ball is gently placed on top of the surface of the mixture, it slowly but surely sinks. However, by applying more shear when the ball
Yes, please. Is this video is visible to all?
हो सर.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Yes. So this is what the shear thickening, and what we said about the shear thickening, that is what, as force increases, viscosity also increases. So just see the video, you will understand.
It behaves very differently. When the ball is gently placed on top of the surface of the mixture, it slowly but surely sinks. However, by applying more shear in an attempt to remove it, the solid-like qualities of the substance are demonstrated. We see that if the ball is dropped and impacts the mixture with a high initial velocity and greater shear force, its apparent viscosity is
Yes, you can see here as
and greater
yes.
shear force, its apparent viscosity
With a high force when yes this ball applies high force when it is when we leave that ball from the height, so that means what, impact load is more, so force increases. Correct. So when force increases, viscosity also increases. In slow motion you can see here what happens. Yes, you can see here. So viscosity is more, so therefore it cannot penetrate that fluid. Correct. But when we gently placed that same ball, this is what, this is water suspension of cornstarch. Correct. So when we gently placed this ball, yes, so now it is easily penetrate in the fluid. But as force increases, impact load we are applying, more force is there. So what happened? It's a penetrate. It does not penetrate easily. Means what? Viscosity is more.
We see that if the ball is dropped and impacts the mixture with a high initial velocity and greater shear force, its apparent
so you can see here, yes. So it does not penetrate when we apply more force. Correct. So that means what? It does not penetrate means what? The viscosity increased when the force increases. Correct. So that is what the shear thickening. Correct. Now we'll see what the shear thinning. So I will close it. So in case of shear thinning, what happens? As force increases, viscosity decreases. So you can see in this video.
To demonstrate this in a more dramatic way, we see that by simply placing a golf ball on top of the ketchup, it settles.
This is ketchup.
However, when the ball is dropped,
and this is what the shear thinning, pseudoplastic fluid. So as we apply more force, you can see here, yes, so it penetrates easily. Why? For the more force, the viscosity decreases. In slow motion you can see it now. Yes, just see, observe this one. Yes, so it get penetrate easily at the increased force. Why it is so? Because as force increases, viscosity decreases. Correct? Yes. So is it clear? Is it clear about the shear thickening and the shear thinning? Have you got the concept? What is shear thickening and what is shear thinning? Or what is the exact difference between dilatant fluid and the pseudoplastic fluid? Is it clear to all? Yes, anyone?
Yes, clear.
So this example will clear you. Okay. So okay. So next is what? The ideal Bingham plastic fluid. Correct. So I will show that fluid here. So here you will get the ideal Bingham plastic or the Bingham plastic fluid. So I will write down here. Bingham plastic fluid or ideal Bingham plastic fluid. Correct. You can see that when we apply force on the Bingham plastic fluid, if you observe this graph particularly, that is the graph of the or this line of Bingham plastic fluid. So as we increase the force, that means what, the shear stress, up to some force or the shear stress, there is no shear strain, there is no deformation. Correct. But after some time, after the yield point, it gets started for the deformation and we will get what? The rate of the shear strain. But till this point, there is no deformation, there is no shear strain. And the best example of this one is what? The paste, your toothpaste. So when we apply force on that toothpaste or the container of the toothpaste, so for some time, it does not coming out from the container. Correct? We have to apply some force for some time period. But after some amount of force, it will start to coming out from the container. Correct? So the Bingham plastic fluid, and after that, the shear stress and the rate of shear strain are what? Rate of the shear strain are linearly varying. Correct? But up to this point, we have to apply the force and there is no deformation. So the best example of this one is what? The paste. Again, some fluids are there. So I will show you the next type of fluid. So that is what? So this is what? The thixotropic fluid. Correct. So in this case also, we have to apply the force on the fluid and up to some amount of force, up to for some time period, there is no deformation. And after that, there is non-linear. So there is a relationship between the shear stress and the rate of shear strain. It is non-linear. It is not linear. Correct. It is looking like as what? The shear thinning. So that kind of fluid is nothing but what? Thixotropic fluid. So in thixotropic fluid and the pseudoplastic fluid, the difference is what? We have to apply some amount of force before for the deformation. After the application of some amount of force, the deformation gets started. Correct. But in case of pseudoplastic fluid, when we apply force, suddenly the deformation is going to start or the fluid is flowing continuously. Correct. So thixotropic fluid, the best example of the thixotropic fluid is what? The printer ink. Printer ink. Correct. So this is what you can see here: dilatant fluid, Newtonian fluid, pseudoplastic fluid, Bingham plastic fluid, and thixotropic fluid. So here this dilatant, pseudoplastic, Bingham plastic, and thixotropic fluid are the non-Newtonian fluid where shear stress is not varying linearly with the rate of shear strain. But in case of Newtonian fluid, the shear stress varies linearly with the rate of the shear strain. And one more thing, and the important thing is what? There is no change in viscosity with respect to the force in case of the Newtonian fluid. But in case of the all non-Newtonian fluid, either that is dilatant, pseudoplastic, Bingham plastic, or the thixotropic, so there is a change in viscosity with respect to the force. So only in case of Bingham plastic, it varies linearly, but after applying some amount of force to the liquid or the fluid. Okay, so this is all about what? The non-Newtonian fluid. Okay, yes. So next we will move towards the next property of the fluid, and that is what? The compressibility. So I will go for the next property, that is compressibility. So I will write down here the compressibility. So what is compressibility? Compressibility, yes, is the measure of change in density or volume under the application of a pressure. So I will write down here, is the measure of change in density or volume under the application of pressure. Correct. And the most important thing that you need to remember is what? This compressibility is characterized or measured by bulk modulus K. Remember that compressibility is characterized or measured by bulk modulus K. So I will write down here K. So to measure the compressibility, so first we have to measure what? The bulk modulus. So as we decide the bulk modulus, after that we can decide what? The compressibility. So first we have to decide what, or we have to measure bulk modulus K of the fluid. Correct. So what is bulk modulus? So I will show you the bulk modulus K. So here K equals to limit delta V tends to 0. So delta P, that is change in pressure. So due to this change in pressure, there is a change in volume and divided by the original volume. Correct. So for the change in pressure, there is a change in volume divided by original volume is nothing but what? This is a compressibility. Correct. And remember that you can see here, you can observe that as we suppose for the particular fluid, we change the pressure on that fluid. Correct. And suppose the volume, and we have measured the change in volume. Correct. So we know that as we increase the pressure, the volume get decreased. Correct. So as the change in pressure, so as we increase the pressure, volume get decreased. So when we increase the pressure, so final pressure minus initial pressure will be positive. But whenever there is decrease in volume, so final volume minus initial volume will be what? Negative. So therefore we have to put here the negative sign. Because why we are putting here negative sign? Because this delta P is positive and this delta V is negative. When we don't put this negative sign, so the value of K will be negative, and in compressibility there is no meaning for the negative sign. So to cancel out that negative sign, we have to put this negative. Is it clear? Yes. And one more thing is what? What is the relationship between compressibility and the bulk modulus? So remember that compressibility is inversely proportional to the bulk modulus. More the value of a bulk modulus for the particular fluid, less the compressibility of that fluid. Remember that. Correct. And you can see here, as we change the pressure, so there is a change in volume. So as there is more change in volume, means what? Compressibility is more. Correct. But since K is inversely proportional to change in volume, so as there is more change in volume, this K will be less. So K will be less means what? The compressibility is more. So therefore, compressibility is inversely proportional to what? This bulk modulus K. Correct? Yes. Now we can write down this K as what? That is minus dP by dV by V. So dV is the change in volume and divided by V is the original volume. Correct? Yes. One more thing about the compressibility, that is what? We know that rho V, that is what? Mass density into volume is equals to mass, and that is nothing but constant. Because we know that what is the unit of rho? Kg per meter cube into what is the volume? Meter cube. So this one get cancelled and we will get what? Kg. So therefore I can write down here rho into V equals to mass, and that is nothing but what? Constant. Correct. So when we differentiate this one, so what we will get? So rho into dV plus V into d rho equals to 0, because m is the constant. Correct? Yes. So now I can write down this one as, that is what? Rho dV equals to minus V d rho. So I can write down this one minus dV by V. This V comes to left side, equals to d rho by rho. So yes. So now this minus dV by V we can replace by d rho by rho. So K equals to, that is change in pressure d rho by rho. So why here there is positive sign? Because whenever we increase the pressure, so density also increases. The molecule comes more and more closer, and when molecule comes more and more closer under the application of pressure, so what happened? Density also increases. Correct. So both here in case of dP, so it increases, therefore final pressure minus initial pressure is positive, and here density also increases, therefore final density minus initial density also increases. So therefore here you will find the positive sign. But in case of volume, correct, if we want to define the compressibility if we want to define the bulk modulus in terms of change in volume, we have to put sign minus. But when we want to define this bulk modulus in terms of mass density, we have to put here positive sign. Correct? So this is what the compressibility. Okay. So is it clear to all? Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, fine. So we will move towards the next property of the fluid. And
एक मिनट ही रॉन्ग है, एकच मिनिट रॉन्ग है.
yes, please. Yes.
Okay, sir. That is it.
Okay, fine. So now we will move towards the next property of the fluid, and that is what? The surface tension. Surface tension. So what is surface tension? I will write down here. That is a phenomenon in which the surface of the liquid where the liquid is in contact with the gas, where the liquid is in contact with the gas acts like a membrane in tension. Acts like a membrane in tension. So surface tension is what? Is the phenomena in which the surface of the liquid, where the liquid is in contact with the gas. The surface where the liquid is in contact with the gas acts like a membrane in tension. So that kind of phenomena is nothing but what? Surface tension. The surface tension is, remember, that is a line force. Surface tension is a line force, and the unit of the surface tension is Newton per meter. Surface tension is a line force. And unit of surface tension is Newton per meter. Correct? So let us suppose the container is there and some liquid is there in that container, and this surface is in contact with the some gas or the air. Correct? If we consider this molecule or the particle in this fluid or in this liquid, so since around this particle all particles are the same liquid, so therefore what happens? It will be attracted in all direction with the same force. Correct? But when we observe the particle at the surface, so here it will be attracted in all this direction in which we have shown the blue color is attracted by due to what? The cohesive forces. Here you will observe the cohesive forces. But on this upper side of the surface, gas is there, so there are some adhesive forces, and remember that in this case cohesive forces are much greater than what? The adhesive forces. So therefore there is imbalance between the forces, and the surface acts like a membrane in tension, because these forces, these adhesive forces, are very small as compared to cohesive forces. So there is imbalance. Correct? On the upper side there is less force, and the downward side there is what? More forces. So there is imbalance between the forces, and that imbalance between the forces create a surface with some tension, and that kind of phenomena is nothing but what? Surface tension. Okay. So now we will try to find out the surface tension in the liquid droplet, liquid jet, and the hollow bubble. So we'll start with what? The next part, that is what? Surface tension in liquid droplet. Yes. So remember that surface tension is represented by sigma. This is a line force. Obviously the unit will be what? Newton per meter. It is acting on the line. You can see here this force is acting on the line. So therefore this is known as what? Line force, and the unit of the surface tension is Newton per meter, and it is represented by sigma. Yes. So next, surface tension in liquid droplet. So first is what? Liquid droplet. So what about the liquid droplet, or what exactly happens in the liquid droplets? That is, suppose this is a liquid droplet. Correct. When it releases from the tap, what happens? So this is the liquid droplet, initial shape of the liquid droplet. So what happens? So here the liquid molecules are there. So therefore it is attracted inside by cohesive forces, but the outer surface of this liquid droplet is attracted by, or it's applied by, what, the adhesive forces which is in contact with the air, and that forces are very less as compared to this inside forces. So therefore this liquid droplet starts to contract because the inside forces are more as compared to the outside forces. So therefore it starts to get contract, more and more contract, and finally it will acquire spherical shape. Correct? It will acquire the spherical shape which has the minimum surface area. Correct? The final shape of the liquid droplet is what? It will try to always acquire the minimum surface area because these cohesive forces are greater than the adhesive forces. So finally it will acquire this shape, and due to the inside or more inside cohesive forces, or you can see here these forces, the inside pressure get increases because it get contracted. And obviously when it get contracted, since the cohesive forces are greater than the outside adhesive forces, so obviously the pressure inside the droplet get increases. Correct? So inside pressure is greater than the outside pressure. But remember that whatever the amount of the pressure get increased, so that is get balanced by the surface tension. Otherwise what happens, if inside pressure is greater and outside pressure is less, in that case it will get burst. But since this increase in pressure delta P get balanced by the surface tension, so therefore this will not get burst and it will get what? Balanced at the spherical shape. Correct? So now we want to find out the relationship between this increase in pressure delta P inside the liquid droplet and the surface tension. So I will show you one diagram so that you will understand. So I will take cut portion of this liquid droplet. I will take section from this position. Correct? So I will take the section of this liquid droplet like this one. You will find this is the half portion of this one. So on the surface, surface tension is acting. Correct? And inside there is delta P pressure. Correct? So this is sigma, that is surface tension, and this increase in pressure get balanced. So actually the surface tension is Newton per meter, and this is what? Pressure. So this pressure force and this surface tension force get balanced. Correct? Same entities only get balanced. So I'm saying that this delta P, that is what? Pressure change in pressure force and surface tension force get balanced. How it get balanced? You can see here, that is what? Delta P is the change in pressure into, so this is inside the liquid, so pi by 4 d square. So this change in pressure into area is nothing but what? Pressure force. Now it becomes force. When I multiply this pressure into area, that is equals to, this surface tension is acting on the circumference. So therefore sigma into pi d. So Newton per meter into meter, this becomes what? Surface tension force. Newton per meter square into meter square, it becomes what? Newton. So that is pressure force. So this increase in pressure force is equals to surface tension force. Correct? So this one and this one get cancelled. This one also get cancelled, and you will get, that is delta P equals to 4 sigma upon d. So this change in pressure inside the liquid droplets is equals to 4 times surface tension divided by diameter of that droplet. So this is about what? The liquid droplet. This is the relationship between change in pressure inside increase in pressure is equals to what? This, how much pressure get increased in this droplet? That is 4 times surface tension divided by diameter. Correct? Yes.
Hello, sir.
This, yes. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir. Clear है.
Okay. So this is about the liquid droplet. This formula you must remember these formulae. That is for the liquid droplet, liquid jet, and the hollow bubble. Because you will find, you can find the questions on this surface tension. So mostly they will ask for these formulas. They will ask numerical, depends upon this formula. So therefore, remember this formula. Therefore, the liquid droplet, liquid jet, and the hollow bubble. Next, we will go for what? The liquid jet. So, liquid jet. So you can see here, this is the liquid jet. Correct? Again, if I take the section of this one, so when we take section, so it will looking like this one. This is the section of what? The liquid jet. Correct? So here you will find what? The surface tension. On this line, there is no surface tension because liquid jet is get continued here. Where is surface tension? Where this liquid surface in contact with the gases. So therefore, on these two vertical lines only, you will find what? The surface tension. Correct? So that is what the sigma. So again, in the liquid jet, there is inside the liquid jet there is cohesive forces, and outside the liquid jet there are what? The adhesive forces. Correct? So again, the due to the more cohesive forces inside the liquid jet, the pressure get increased, and that increase in pressure is get balanced by what? This surface tension. So therefore, since there is a balance of surface tension increase in pressure, so I can write down here, that is what? Delta P, that is the pressure, into, now I want to write down this area, this rectangular area. So suppose this is the diameter D and suppose L is the length. So we can write down here, that is L into D equals to, so delta P increase in pressure into length into diameter. This is the area, equals to this sigma, that is surface tension, into surface tension is acting on these two lines. So therefore I can write down 2L. Correct? Yes. So this L and this L get cancelled, and you will find this delta P equals to 2 sigma upon D. Correct? So this is about what? The liquid jet. Next is what? Hollow bubble. So the liquid droplet and the hollow bubbles both are spherical, but the difference is what? Inside the liquid bubble, hollow bubble, again there is a gas or the air, and outside also air. Correct? But in case of the liquid droplet, you will find the liquid inside this droplet, and on the outside there is air. Correct? Yes. So thing is what? Here, when I want to balance this inside pressure and the surface tension, so in that case, what we can do, that is delta P into pi by 4 D square. It is similar as what the liquid droplet, but since there is a gas or the air on both sides. So therefore, I will write down that surface tension is acting on both sides, inside and outside. So therefore, I will take as what 2 sigma into pi d. Correct? So this d and this d get cancelled. This pi and pi get cancelled. And this 4 into 2, 8. And you will find delta P equals to 8 sigma upon d. So for the liquid droplet, delta P equals to 4 sigma upon d. For the liquid jet, delta P equals to 2 sigma upon d. And for the hollow bubble, delta P, that is change in pressure, is equals to 8 sigma upon d. Correct. So just remember this relationship, that is what in between the change in pressure and the surface tension for liquid droplet, for the liquid jet and the hollow bubble. So this is important actually. Okay. Yes. So next and the last property of the fluid that we are going to learn here, that is what? Capillary action or capillarity. Capillarity. Okay. So capillarity is a phenomenon of rise or fall of liquid. Is a phenomena of rise or fall of liquid surface in a small tube relative to the adjacent general level of the liquid when tube is held vertically in the liquid. When the glass tube is held vertically in the liquid. Correct. So capillarity is the phenomenon of rise or fall of the liquid surface in a small tube relative to the adjacent general level. So this is the phenomenon of rise or fall of the liquid. So why there is rise or why there is fall of the liquid? So it is due to the adhesive and the cohesive force. So what happens exactly, that I am going to show you. So this is the liquid. This is the container. And this is the liquid inside the container. And when we insert a small tube inside it, and if suppose adhesive forces are greater than cohesive forces, here I am trying to write down, suppose in this case adhesive forces, that is what? Molecular attraction between the fluid particles and the glass is more as compared to the cohesive forces. So in that case, it is going to rise in this liquid, and here you will get what? The concave shape. Correct. And here you will find surface tension force, because this surface is in contact with the air. Correct. And here you will find the concave surface. If adhesive forces, that is what? The molecular attraction between the gas, molecular attraction between the liquid particle and the glass is more than the cohesive forces between the liquid particle. So in that case, it will get rise in the glass tube, and that phenomena of rise or fall of the liquid relative to the adjacent general level of the liquid is known as what? Capillarity. Correct? So this, if you put the water is there, so it will get rise of the fluid is taking place. And if suppose mercury is there, when we insert a glass tube inside this one, so there is fall of the liquid taking place. And you will get here the convex shell. Correct. So again, this surface is in contact with the air, so you will find here the surface tension. Correct. In this case, cohesive forces are greater than adhesive forces. Correct? Yes. Here, whatever the rise of the liquid column is taking place in this glass tube, that is balanced by vertical component of this surface tension force. Suppose this angle is theta. Correct. So whatever the rise of the fluid is taking place, the weight of this liquid, correct. So weight of this rise liquid or the raised liquid is balanced by vertical component of this surface tension force. So therefore, I can write down one equation here. That is what? So what will be the weight of this one? So I can write down the weight by using what? The weight density rho g into this volume. Correct. How I can write down the volume? Volume will be what? Pi by 4 d square. So d is the cross-sectional area of this tube. Correct. So area into height. Suppose h is the height. That is the raised inside the glass tube. So this is the area into height. So this is what? Rho g, that is Newton per meter cube, into meter square into meter. You can see here, Newton per meter cube into meter square into meter. So this one get cancelled, and you will get Newton, that is the weight of the fluid. Correct. So this weight of the fluid is balanced by what? Vertical component of the surface tension. Correct. So I can write down here, vertical component will be what? It's a vertical, the vertical component of this force will be what? Sigma cos theta. So sigma cos theta. So what is the unit of sigma? Newton per meter into, it is acting circumferentially. So therefore I can write down pi d. So Newton per meter into meter. So this will becomes what? Surface tension force. Correct. So finally you will get the equation H equals to 4 sigma cos theta upon rho g d. So you can observe that whatever the rise or the fall of the liquid is taking place, so this is what the H. So this rise or the fall of the liquid is depends upon what? The surface tension. Correct. This angle theta between the vertical and the surface tension force. Again, it depends upon what? Mass density and diameter of the tube. Correct. And when water is in contact with clean glass tube, so in this case, always theta equals to 0. So therefore, H equals to cos theta. So cos 0 is 1. So it becomes what? 4 sigma upon rho g d. So this formula we have to apply, that is H equals to 4 sigma upon rho GD when water is in contact with the clean glass. Otherwise, we have to use this formula H equals to 4 sigma cos theta upon rho GD. Correct. So this is all about what? The capillarity, surface tension, as well as we have seen about what compressibility and non-Newtonian fluid.